All right, my man. I'll tell you what, it looks like we're about ready to have it formatted. We're going to go live in three, two, one, and let's get ready to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Coach Scott Fields with another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. Super excited for today's guest this afternoon. A little twist to what the Coach Scott Fields Show usually discusses and talks about, but today this is something that I'm excited about. I'm going to continue to evolve and learn and grow more with this concept. And we've got the CEO, Nick Monzi, with us. So let's cue up the music and let people join us live. Now I'm the DJ.
I love it.
It's Wednesday, June 10th, baby. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. It's me, the coach, bringing you another exciting episode of the Coach Scott Fields Show. Let me just say, I have been overwhelmed and excited with all the new viewers, all the new likes to our show. Continue to like and follow our Coach Scott Fields Show page here on Facebook, and also subscribe for free to our YouTube channel, the Coach Scott Fields Show. Send us your questions and your comments throughout the show, because I know Nick or I will be able to get on there and answer some of those questions for you. But I am thrilled to introduce a new friend who I was introduced through another friend, Jeff Hale, out in California, CEO Nick Monzi of Learn Fresh. So Nick, welcome to the show. How are you? And I'm glad you're with us.
Thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate you having me here. I'm coming to you from Philadelphia. It's been a wild few months here, but I'm excited about the work that we're doing, fortunate for the space that we can do the work in, and excited to share with you guys in the audience tonight.
Well, I'm excited. Last week we got in contact with each other, and Jeff said, "Hey," he said, my guy Nick has got this exciting game. I'm like, "Well, tell me about it." And then when you shared with me over the phone how you're getting out into the communities and all the partnerships that you had, I got really excited. And then when the game arrived, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You're partnering with Hasbro and you have NBA math hoops? I mean, come on, Hasbro is a huge board game maker, and then you are right there partnering right with them." So Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your background. Tell us about the Learn Fresh and how Learn Fresh ends up, going with the NBA math hoops program. So you're a Harvard grad. You got to be a lot smarter than me.
Well, I'll share a little bit about my background, and then I'll talk a little bit about how the work got started, because those are interestingly different things. So I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York area, just north of New York City. My mom was an educator. My dad was like a business person, accountant. So, kind of the world that I live in is a natural byproduct of my parents in a lot of ways. I went to Syracuse University for my undergrad, really fell in love with sports earlier, but fell in love with the process of working around sports there. I worked in the communications sports information department at SU, worked a lot of the games, basketball, football, etc. And when I was there as well, I also developed a really strong passion for education. So my undergrad degree was actually in entrepreneurship and marketing, but through music education, which is a space that I've worked in for quite some time, and just being around sports and like the coaching environment, the athletic environment, really fell in love with the idea of working in education as a career. So after I graduated from Syracuse, worked with a nonprofit for a little while, and then went back to get my master's at the Harvard Ed School, which is where I met the folks who were putting together the building blocks for this program. Separately from myself, the NBA Math Hoops game, which you have and held up, was actually first built by a math teacher in San Diego, California, starting in the late 90s. So that actual product has been around for quite some time, has been developed over the course of decades now, and was spun into our community-based program through our nonprofit Learn Fresh, starting in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. We launched our first formal program with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that was a long journey, and I'm sure we'll get into it on this call, but it's just been the story of NBA Math Hoops is awesome because it includes so many people. It's a community-based story, and it's something that's continued to be embraced by so many different people, not only across the U.S. but increasingly across the world.
Yeah, I was able to get on the website, and of course I navigated around and I was getting familiar with the program, but love the community engagement, love the activity and action that's involved with the game, because that's keeping people up and moving, which to me, so many guys are playing games and they get addicted and then they just sit and there's no physical activity.
Right.
There's interaction. So I want you to kind of dive into the community involvement, the fun activity with it, the learning process with it, and the action that's involved. Because I mean, I've even got a copy of the, of course, the board here that, of course, I need to hold it up the right way for you. Yeah. So anyway, kind of go into that and kind of the vision behind the game and how you took the game and enhanced it, and just get also, I mean, gosh, you're touching so many lives and you're teaching math and arithmetic, and kids are learning in a fun way, and that's the way to do it.
Totally. Well, I think you just looking at education higher level, teaching subjects in a fun way, like you said, is super important, in a way that's relevant to kids' lives, right? Like, why would I want to do a worksheet about, something that's made up and fictional when I can learn through something that's I watch every day? Like, that's the ethos of the work that we do, and really our entire organization. And just, doing work that's really representative of all the kids that we work with. Like right now, racial justice has been such a huge part of the conversation nationwide. And in our product, there are NBA players, there are WNBA players, there are players across the racial spectrum in the United States, there are players from across the world featured in the product. So it's something that almost every kid in the country can see themselves in some way. And I think that's really powerful.
I believe so. I think the interaction part with it is phenomenal. The fact that you are partnering and you're in so many of the NBA communities already, and a lot of those communities, I mean, let's be honest, they have socioeconomical challenges as far as finances, but yet you're able to get out and touch and work with people in these communities. You guys have been here in the Salt Lake area before, but I also saw, I mean, come on, Golden State and the Clippers and the Grizzlies, like you said, the Cavs, the Pistons, the Nuggets, Blazers, the NBA Players Association, the Suns. I mean, you've been to so many of the communities already, and I can just imagine the excitement of players being able to go out and get in those communities, and with your staff and your board of directors and all those people that actually get to see how it's actually affecting these kids.
Yeah, and the player engagement piece has been so much fun. We started by doing, and I can talk a little bit more about how the board game actually works, but basically we did this event called Math Hoops Live, where we'd take the board game that you held up and put it on an actual basketball court. And when the students play, they'll draft these players of NBA, these player cards of real NBA and WNBA player stats, picture of the players, all that. You use those cards to take shots in the game. When we play the game in a Math Hoops Live format, quote unquote, we actually have real WNBA or NBA players on the court taking the shots for the kids, which is just so much fun. Wow. And then we've even we've started doing virtual tournaments over Zoom now, because we can't have kids in person. Yeah. And Eric Pascal, he attended the Warriors final a couple of weeks ago, and he just thought it was so, I mean, it was like he was watching a real basketball game. It's hey, come on, Steph, make the three, it just elicits that emotion that's so true to the game of basketball.
Well, see, and I love that piece, because how can you not get excited about it? I mean, the game itself, it comes with the scoreboard. You've got a scoreboard right there. You've got the markers. You've got the sheets where you're actually, documenting and writing everything down. Like you say, the player cards come with it, with NBA, WNBA players. You've got different spots on the floor where you're going to get so many points for that individual who's going to shoot from that spot. And to me, that just makes it even more fun, which is going to make it exciting for the kids, which for me, when I was a kid, I was always a visual learner, but today's kids are so visual because of all the technology that we have access to. And I mean, you guys have even gone as far, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but you guys even have created an app for this as well. And I'm just like, man, you're covering all bases. Great job.
Thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the great things, I'll talk a little bit about the dichotomy between like the physical product and the digital product. And
Yeah.
also this presents one of the challenges that we're looking to address right now in this moment with students having to learn remotely.
Yeah. The COVID-19.
Right.
Yes.
So, the board game, the math is such a huge part of it, obviously, but so much of the learning, I always say it's a 50-50 proposition between math, STEM, academic learning, and social emotional development. Because the students play in teams of two, they have to draft their team with a partner, they have to compete across the table from another pair of teammates. Like there's so many things related to negotiation and compromise and like good sportsmanship and teamwork that are embedded into the fabric of the game, because it's just like running a basketball team in a sense for fourth of
there you go, these little general managers being born.
Right. so the in-person aspect is so huge for that, and one of the things that we really value. And now we have been and are being forced to look a lot more at the digital side of things, and there's definitely a lot of real value there too. One of the things we're being really mindful about is how to take the social emotional benefits of the in-person program and make sure that they're replicated in some format digitally, right? So that's a big part of our forward-looking work.
See, and I love that. And I mean, you've got this huge team of people that you're working with. And I was looking at some of the backgrounds of some of the people that you're partnered with. And I'm like, my goodness, this is so good, because you're hitting it from so many different perspectives, so many different lenses, and the growth for you guys to have those people around you. How did that concept get started? And how did all that vision come to fruition for you to build it to where it is today?
Yeah. So there was a long process going back to the beginning. After Tim Scheid is the original inventor of the game. Jim Fina is the curriculum developer who worked with them to build like the framework curriculum that wraps around the board game experience. They, for a number of years, were working to build some degree of relationship with the NBA to try and figure out where this could fit into league channels. And another key person who is a part of this, the kind of founding equation of the organization, is a man named Bill Daugherty, who was actually our first board chair, who was an NBA executive alongside Adam Silver, Mark Tatum, et cetera, in the 90s. And Bill had retired, like started a tech company, sold it, retired to Rhode Island, which is where my co-founder Khalil, my co-founder of the nonprofit Khalil, was going to school. And Bill basically found out about this after some time. We leveraged his connections at the NBA to get a royalty-free license for us at Hasbro to get them to produce the board game in kind. So they've actually donated almost $1 million worth of product to us, which is such a huge part of this, and something that they don't really get a lot of credit for externally.
Great job, Hasbro. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So all that founding Nucleus, Big Picture Learning, which is a nonprofit network of alternative high schools across the country. They're headquartered in Rhode Island. They played a pretty big founding role for this work too. All of that put wheels in motion that led to the organization Learn Fresh being created to really support the globalization of the product, if you will. So in 2013, we launched our first program in partnership with an NBA team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, which was really at the directive of their community staff and NBA care staff. Had success there. Then we moved to Denver, and then we moved to the Bay Area. And then just year over year since then, we've gotten better at the work that we do. We've hired really high quality people who have experience in the field, and we've built up a lot of trust across the league. So teams refer to other teams. The league helps us navigate the scale piece as well. And it's just become something where now, essentially we have the largest education program that the league runs in this sense.
And see, it's so neat because, then I saw some other material that you sent over to me where the NBA Cares program has actually instituted it. And then I see, again, more partnerships being formed. But to me, I mean, congratulations to get the league, the NBA, WNBA behind it. And now, like I'm saying, you've got these players that these children know and see and watch and follow through social media, through games, through, TV networks. And they're like, okay, they already know who they are. So to me, that connection that you're making through the game is phenomenal.
Yeah, you can't understate the value of having the real players in the product, right?
Oh,
Like it just makes it feel authentic. And then like if I'm a kid and I'm playing with James Harden, and then I go home at night and watch TV and the Rockets are playing or something,
yeah.
that brings the learning like full circle, right? And I
Wow.
think one thing that I don't talk about a lot externally, but we haven't quite gotten to the point where this narrative is put out like at scale, but the fact that the league took a chance, and there are a lot of factors that led to this, but the league took a chance on something that was pretty not unproven. I mean, like Tim and some of the original founders have had a lot of success with the baseball program, for example. I mean, they've done a lot of good work in education that definitely provided a foundation for trust. But as an individual product, something that had not scaled yet, the league put a lot of faith in that to grow.
Wow.
And just where it's taken a lot of work, obviously, and there are a lot of people who've put time and energy into making sure that it has been and will be successful. But I think it's an awesome model that other leagues could
Oh,
look at, right? Like if a league with that amount of brand power invested in something that was small and let it grow patiently over time, I mean, there's enormous potential for something like that.
well, I think of course, the relationships that you've built through this. I think of the credibility that you've built through this. I think of the lives that you've positively affected to teach them skills, which now these kids are going to be more confident when they walk into the classroom. They're going to have more self-confidence, more self-esteem. They're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. I mean, we can go into and delve into so much of that, but these young kids in the inner city that don't have things and don't have exposure to certain things, all of a sudden, here comes this game. Someone comes into the community, and let's say, hypothetically, here at the Jazz, let's say a Donovan Mitchell goes out to a rec center, has this game, and gets 300 kids involved. And the next thing you know, they're playing this game and they're excited, and Donovan is there. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I can just see where that snowballs so effectively. And wow, what empowering tools.
Totally. It's it's hard as you're talking and you're thinking, you're like listing off all these things that like relate to the impact that the program has. One of the things that I just love about this work is that there are all those layers, and it actually gets really difficult for us sometimes to parse out and communicate that value, because
Yeah.
the world has become, we've kind of shifted a little bit. Like COVID-19 has forced folks to look at things maybe from a more human standpoint, but we've become so data driven that everything's like math scores improved by 28% or 35% or whatever. That's how we communicate. But there's so much nuance to the value of a program like this
Oh
that
my goodness.
it's exciting, and it has inspired us to think about other ways beyond just the game of basketball, or beyond with NBA athletes, but beyond the United States, that we can make impact.
Well, I can tell already, just with the interaction and conversations I've had with you, you're a very humble guy. But let's take a second and talk about some of those data-driven stats that you have, because on that one site that I went to, when I saw the number of kids that have already been involved with the program, the number of percentages of scores that have gone up. I mean, I don't know if you have that documentation there in front of you, but kind of share some of those numbers of kids that have been involved, communities that have been involved, the scores, the rankings, the percentages. I mean, to me, because when I see that, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, what a powerful program to be involved with. And how can other schools get involved? How can other communities get involved? And then how can we help build awareness to show something that I'm so excited about, that I've just learned about within the last week? It's like, oh my gosh, how can I get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the impact, just like looking at outputs, right? So we've engaged, we're getting close to, and probably will surpass 5 or maybe even surpass 6,000 schools equipped with the program this school year. To date, as of right now, we've engaged over 260,000 students with the program nationwide. And just on the scale, like on just the pure scale piece, right? Like basketball is such a global sport, so we see a huge opportunity for this product to live in the United States, across all 50 states and communities, big and small. I mean, one of the things that I've shared this story with a few folks, but at an education conference that I was at last year, an educator came up to me from rural Alaska and said, "You don't understand how big the game of basketball is in rural Alaska, because it's like
right.
such a simple, easy game to play. And right. And like getting equipment up there just logistically as a hurdle. You playing the game of basketball is simple. So that made me really think like, oh my gosh, there are so many gaps in the map just in our own country that could be filled in with this program. But then you look at, the popularity of the game of basketball globally in places like Australia, Asia,
yes.
Europe,
China
Africa,
right now. Oh
China,
my goodness.
and the Middle East. So like all these places we're looking at, not immediately. We have limitations, obviously, but
sure.
Over time, we see this as a program that can grow globally. And the awesome thing about that, from my perspective as someone who's trained and works in education, is that there actually are not that many education programs that can cut across countries because of the way education systems work. But ultimately, like, foundational math is something that every kid needs to learn. Social emotional skills are universal, and the game of basketball is a global sport. So it's like the perfect synergy of those things.
I so see that, because I've been blessed in my career that I've traveled the globe, and I've coached internationally and have won championships abroad. And when I see the number of kids that are bonded because of the game of basketball. I mean, when I coached over in China for 3 years, I couldn't believe the first few years that I went there. Of course, I knew Yao Ming was coming over to the NBA, but the amount of Kobe Bryant jerseys that I saw, the Dwayne Wade jerseys that I saw, and then you bring a game like this over there where you're teaching those math skills and soft skills to these kids through that medium. I'm sitting there scratching my head right now going, oh my gosh. And then I've been in the Middle East. I've been throughout Europe and Scandinavia and around the globe. And I'm like, I mean, I know you got to crawl before you walk before you run. And like you said, there's so many different markets here just within the states and the nation that you haven't even scratched the surface yet. But to me, the growth of a game like this that is going to positively affect the youth and the children, to teach them these soft skills. I just keep going, wow.
Yeah, it's inspiring for sure, and it's motivating for sure. And one of the other byproducts, again, like we were talking about, other unintended impacts, or kind of like tangential impacts from the core of like the academic piece. We did a virtual tournament a couple of weeks ago with the Warriors in the Bay Area. We had families from across the Bay Area playing math hoops over Zoom. And that was powerful, right? But if you think about having a student in New Zealand playing against a student in Kansas, or a student in California playing against a student in Jordan or something, like the connections that you can build are just awesome. And that's a longer term project, but it's right. Super cool.
Just like I see my son right now, who is actually a professional basketball player over in the country of Georgia. I see him on his Xbox playing, games against different people, again, having that interaction and that connectivity with, so he can stay in touch with friends back home. And it's like, yeah, this game has the capacity to do the same thing through the sport that they already passionately love. And so to me, it's like, wow, Nick, you've got a monster here that's just going to continue to evolve and grow. And it's like, how exciting for you to be in that seat, to see the possibilities that are there. But yet I appreciate the fact that you're so into the details and the intricacies to make sure that the little finite things are actually applicable. So good for you.
Thanks. And from a leadership perspective too, and I think everyone in our organization, my general philosophy around leadership is like, everyone is a leader in some sense, right? Like everyone has responsibility to each other and to the team that makes them a leader. And that balance, right, between like longer term vision and like where we can take this and the things that we need to do in the moment to be successful in the next step, is like it's something that I always try and keep in mind personally. And I think we do a really good job as a team keeping in mind. And maybe we don't grow as fast as other organizations, but it makes sure that we always grow and we're always making progress and taking steps forward. So that's a big mantra of how we work, for sure. And it's cool that you noticed that.
Well, I say kudos and congratulations. Then I think of, like, since the COVID-19 outbreak, I can imagine how some of these teachers have had to be overwhelmed, or how parents who are now homeschooling kids, how if they had access to a game like this, or if they could get it into the school so that the teacher can virtually play the game, spin the wheel, keep the score, roll the dice, and get kids involved. It's like, yeah, with the app that you have, here's a creative way for some rec centers to still have contact with kids in the community, still have outreach to the community, still get the desired outcomes that they need through education, through math. I sit there right now and think, wow, if I was a teacher, I would be like, how can I get a hold of this? And how quick can I get it? And how can I get started? I sound like an infomercial salesman right now, but it's like, man, Nick, this is so cool.
Totally. And one of the things that we did in response to COVID-19 is we actually started sending physical games home to families. So we worked with educators across the country, and in a lot of cases looked to find families where either they didn't necessarily have a large number of educational resources at home, or they didn't have great tech access at home to continue learning.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi and
Yeah, so in a pretty short amount of time, we were able to fundraise and send over 5,000 games out to 5,000 families in 47 states and territories.
Congratulations!
So, thank you. Yeah, so that was super cool, and that's kind of been the basis. We're doing some of the regional virtual tournaments over Zoom, but we're going to be doing a national one from the middle of July through the middle of August with families all across the country. So that's going to be super special. And now we're thinking about how we can build in a more robust family strategy into our school year program. The game, the curriculum that lays out the basketball season that is at the core of NBA Math Hoops traditionally happens in schools and out of school time programs. And we're prepared to do that. We're preparing to do that virtually and physically in the fall. But how can we align a family component next to that in a sustainable way that allows learning to cut across all those spaces? And thinking about the way like the education sector is going to work in the fall, students may be in classroom a couple days a week, maybe learning at home a couple days a week. The communication and conversation between those two pieces is going to be so huge. And I think that's only going to continue into the future. Like we're probably not turning back from here.
That's right. Yeah. The new normal. So I can see things moving in that direction. And I'm sure in the larger inner cities where COVID was more active and more aggressive, for these schools that won't have an opportunity to open up in the fall, I'd be thinking, my goodness, there's an opportunity right there for these kids or these educators to say, okay, here's a creative and fun way that we can get teaching done. But yet again, that interactive and community involvement is such a vital piece to that. And so I think, again, I've got a family member who is like a director of a rec center where I can see him, that's in a small rural area out in Ohio, where it'd be like, man, how great would this be?
Totally. And from an academic standpoint too, I didn't quite get to like the impact stats before when I was talking about the scale.
Yeah, I get so excited talking about it.
Yeah. I just thinking about, one of the other things that I think is really profound, and we saw this in the data last year when we were analyzing it, is just that the largest gains academically for both like fundamental arithmetic, I guess you would call it, and then like higher level problem solving, the highest level gains from a gender standpoint, boys versus girls, male versus female, the higher gains were actually for girls in the program. And then from like a racial ethnicity standpoint, Black students, Latinx students outperformed or outgrew all other populations participating in the program, which is awesome. I mean, like we talk so much as an education sector about how to level the playing field for all the students that we're working with across the country. And, this is an opportunity for students to have access to something that they have personal investment in and has been proven to create real change. So I'm hopeful that, thank you. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that like, as we look at how the world works in this new normal, this is an opportunity for us to fill a gap that, teachers, educators, parents will have.
Yeah. See, and I think, cause again, I've been blessed to have coached at the highest levels. And I think of, when we're building a team, we don't care about what their racial background is. I mean, we don't care if they're from India. We don't care if they're from South Central. We don't care if they're from the cornfields of Iowa. I don't care if they're from Asia. And I think this game has that same ability to break down some of those racial barriers that as a nation we are actually struggling with right now because it's such a learned behavior. But I can see these guys, it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are, that they can have success and grow and learn and evolve together, but yet build those relationships and bonds that, they're going to be friendships forever through a game like this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's been interesting too, to do events in parts of the country where there's, quite frankly, just like a lot of racial segregation. For example, in the state of Kentucky, right? Like a lot of the urban communities tend to skew Black, at least in terms of where we're doing work. And then a lot of the rural communities tend to skew white. And we've done events there where we've had these students come from these communities to the same space who don't see each other normally. They don't interact normally. There's not a dialogue normally. And it's actually been really beautiful to watch the connection form over the course of just a couple hours. How does that evolve over time is a really, really beautiful and interesting thing.
See, I can see all that through a vision, just knowing how sports work. And I think it's so needed in our society right now to break down some of those barriers and to start, even if it's just an icebreaker to have that uncomfortable conversation, to talk about things. I think the game can be used for those as well. So I think of all the tangible and intangible assets that come with a game like this if you're truly going to teach life and life skills. So, math is being taught, but yet use it as an icebreaker for so many other positive things that can actually evolve productively and fruitfully.
Totally. The WNBA piece is also a huge part of this too. Like the awesome thing that has been embedded in the program since day one is just that all teams across both leagues are represented in the product. And like a lot of students, and I used to say like a lot of boys, but actually like a lot of all students, no matter who they are, would draft their team and they would just always pick the NBA players first. Like they pick LeBron James, they pick Steph Curry because they know them, they're popular, they have shoes, whatever. But then as you play, you actually realize that like a lot of the WNBA players' statistics are as good, if not better, than the NBA
That's
players.
Right.
Just looking at like shooting percentages, which is what the foundation of the game is built on. And it's amazing to watch, like from like a female empowerment standpoint, a lot of the girls be like, hey, like that's me in the game. And a lot of the boys being like, wow, she's really good. Like, I want to draft a team of all WNBA players. The team that won in the Bay Area for the virtual tournament had 5 WNBA players as their starting lineup.
So like, that's so cool.
It just levels the playing field in so many ways.
Well, and I think about as kids are starting to process that information and understand that equality, how beautiful. And again, I keep using the word empowering, but it's like, that's awesome. And probably to sit back as an educator and see those kids grow and see these kids starting to think and process the stats and, what points are worth what. That has to be so fun because you're like, okay, young ladies are becoming women and young boys are becoming men through the game.
Yes. Yeah. In a lot of ways, that's absolutely the case. And the social there are so many layers, right? But the social emotional development that happens, and just a lot of the maturation process that you see for students is a super powerful thing.
Well, you're an architect of words, and you put it much more educated than I do. But I'm just like, this is so cool. I love it. So I definitely want to make sure that when this content is over live, I definitely want to be able to share it with multiple platforms. I want to make sure that people know how to find you, where your websites are. Tell them what your websites are real quick. Then maybe we can have somebody come in on the show page, after the show is running live, and then put those links up there. Because I can imagine as we're talking about this, there have to be people that are going to be excited about trying to be involved in some way. So what are the ways that, they can find you, find your game, find your 501c3s and things like that to get involved for donations or, to, have outreach to get your games out into the communities? Let's share as much of that information as we can.
Absolutely. So NBA Math Hoops on all major social channels. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's where you can find us in the social world. And then our websites are nbamathhoops.org, which is the program website, and learnfresh.org, which is the organization website. We're actually going to be launching a new organization website probably in the next month or so.
Wow.
Definitely. So first off, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, as you mentioned. And although we have all this great support, we do have to fundraise all of our own money. So if someone's compelled to make a contribution, we'd more than welcome that. We'd appreciate it, and it would help us to reach more kids. If you're an educator or a parent who wants to get involved, I would go to nbamathhoops.org. There's a link to get started there. You can also complete a form just to send in a request to us if you don't see something that is immediately compelling to you or you need more information. And then you can always email us too. We're open and available. My email is nick@learnfresh.org, nick@learnfresh.org, and we can help you get set up. Most of our programming really runs during the school year, so we'll be doing regular virtual online trainings throughout the school year as well. So any educator who wants to be involved, maybe we can come back and talk again as we get into August or September and let folks know exactly when those trainings are going to be happening. But those will be awesome opportunities to get you and your students set up for the formal NBA Math Hoops season.
Let's say there is somebody out in the community that's not associated with a school, but maybe have after school programs at rec centers. They get involved the same way, just going to the learnfresh.org website and then kind of put in their information, or does that work the same?
Yeah, the beauty of the program is that it's structured the same way, whether you're using it in a classroom or in an out-of-school time program. So if you're running a Boys and Girls Club or some other center, and you want to have this program for your students, we can equip you in the same way that we would a classroom teacher.
That's so awesome. And then I did see that you do have the app. Is there a way for them? Now, is that both for Android and other formats as well?
Actually, as of this week, I believe we're in the process of launching it now. It'll be available both on Android and iOS, so across all major devices.
Wow.
And then we will be making pretty significant enhancements over the course of the summer on that. So we were really fortunate right after COVID-19 hit to get a $250,000 contribution from AT&T to support the in-depth development of that product. So that app by the end of the summer, early September, is going to be a pretty comprehensive K-8 math tool. Bunch of different mini games, structured app. Currently, there's a 3-point contest in there, but 3-point contest, slam dunk contest, skills challenge, locker room number identification challenge, and it's going to cover a whole bunch of math skills. So everything from basic operations, geometry, number identification, odds and evens, perfect numbers, whole numbers, etc. Percentage decimal fraction conversion. So if your student's K-8, like there'll be something in there for them.
That is so neat, Nick. I'm just excited for you because it's just like, this is such a neat thing. I wish I would have known about it before, but now that I am aware of it, I want to try to help, build the brand and build the awareness and get the marketability going for you. I'm just excited for you. What other exciting things do you have coming with the game that we haven't already talked about? Because I know it's like we're just, giving a quick skim, but yet talk about some of the other things that you're also working on throughout the process as the game continues to grow and evolve. And then we'll get into some of the corporate sponsorships that you have, because we need to give them a shout out and some love too.
Totally. Absolutely. Well, in terms of the organization and the way the product's going to continue to evolve, I talked a little bit about the app. I talked about going digital and virtual with a lot of the trainings and tournaments that we're doing. Talked about international scale. We are looking at doing a digital adaptation of the board game. It's something that is necessary right now. I mean, one, it helps scale, but two, it also, in the learning environment that we're going to be in the fall, I doubt students are going to be in classrooms, particularly in urban environments, playing a physical board game. So it creates an opportunity for us to use the physical games for home-based work or classrooms and spaces where COVID-19 is less prevalent, but then also have a digital edition of it that students can use no matter what.
Wow.
So that's a big focus. And then another thing that's in the pipeline right now, which is actually not sports related at all, but I think is cool to share because you may have some folks on the call who care about this. we're actually in the process of building out an experience. I'll call it an experience because it's not really a product, but it'll be a virtual experience where students can work to build a performing artists tour. So if like Jay-Z or Beyonce or whomever you love like goes on tour, like the process of building that and all like the financial and environmental factors, so like thinking about environmental sustainability, travel and like touring, all of that's going to be layered into this, again, like sequential season-like experience, like building out a performing artists tour. So we've been tentatively calling that Eco Tour, but that it's a little ways in the pipeline, but we're probably going to start fundraising for actual development in the next 6 months.
Man, good for you. And again, I hear that. It's just like you have so many creative juices and so many creative outlets that you can use and so many wonderful partners. Let's talk about some of those corporate sponsors that you already have. I mean, go ahead and get you a sip there. I'll keep talking about the game, but it's like, what are some of the major corporate sponsors that you already have on board with you that have helped? Because, 10, 15 minutes ago, you mentioned, hey, we raised $5,000 and got games out to communities. That's not an easy thing to do. And for corporate sponsors to step up and say, hey, yeah, I want to be a part of this because they see the positivity that's connected to it. Who are some of those major corporate sponsors that you already have that are working with you as partnerships?
So earlier in the episode, you mentioned something about like all these people coming together to support the work. And it's such a community driven endeavor, and that there's the corporate side. So we've talked about the NBA and Hasbro, the Players Association, obviously. At the regional level, so AT&T is a big national partner. At the regional level, there's so many corporations, from Chevron to Accenture to GE Healthcare to Quicken Loans to Flexstar. Wow. I mean, I can go on. And I don't want to leave anyone out, but like right, sure. They all support the regionalized programs directly with teams. So the way this works is that the corporate partner or the team or both support financially in their market, and then there's no cost to the end user, which is the student or the educator. Then there are a number of foundations: the Overdeck Family Foundation in New York, the Skillman Foundation in Detroit, and a growing expanse of other ones across the country, both nationally and at regional levels, that have a real passion for supporting education, math education, STEM education, social emotional development in their communities. And they have, most of those partners have now taken a pretty long-term stake in the work. The other piece of this too is just, we do have other entities around the teams that support us. So, we have ownership support in some markets, which is an area where we think there's a huge opportunity to grow over time. We have team foundations that support. The Sixers Youth Foundation in Philly, which is where I live, they committed a $325,000 3-year grant to support the work, which is a massive investment from a team, right?
Wow.
And that's going to allow us to reach something like 40 or 50,000 students across Delaware, Philly, Pennsylvania, New Jersey over the next 3 years. So
phenomenal. Wow.
Thanks. Yeah. So like there's so many pieces and parts in terms of the financial support side and the community support side, coupling that with like the student educator facing side. And then we kind of sit at the middle of all that and help to facilitate resources to make sure that the entire experience is great for folks on all ends, right?
That's right. Win-win, win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, I love that. What if there's someone out there who's watching this and they want to get involved at a corporate level, or if they want to get involved with you and the Learn Fresh program on an administrative level or something? How can they get involved? Who can they reach out to? Or maybe they want to sit on a board, or maybe be like a regional rep to bring in sponsorship for you regionally in an area. How can they get involved to be a part of this wonderful project and foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can definitely go to the website. They can also just email me again, nick@learnlearnfresh.org. Myself, Caitlin, who's our Chief Development Officer, we really help to facilitate a lot of those relationships. We have limited bandwidth as a nonprofit organization. So one of the things I always say is like, if folks are passionate about this and they want to support, please tell us. We are respectful of the way the fundraising process works. We're respectful of corporate partnerships. We're respectful of the volunteering process. And we know it takes time, but we'd love to know and hear if folks have interest so that we can at least begin cultivating a relationship with you. So that's definitely welcome.
That's so neat. What am I missing? What has slipped through the cracks in this? Because I know there's so many little aspects of it that you deal with as a CEO. I don't want to miss anything or misrepresent anything, but what are some other pieces to share with our followers and viewers right now that I've just missed that I don't want to miss?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that comes to mind, I think you've actually done a really good job of covering a lot of content in a pretty short period of time. Things like this are
it's like
huge.
a 20-second
Yeah,
timeout for me. I got to get it out there.
Yeah. No, things like this are actually huge. So the opportunity to share the story of the work is, again, a thing that a lot of nonprofit organizations have to fight for. But at some point, the snowball starts rolling down the hill, and you pick up more coverage over time. But we're at a point right now where I think, you talked about like crawling and then walking and then running. We're like walking right now. And to get to running, the more visibility that we have for our work will only help to bring in more educators who want to participate, more funders who want to support and contribute, and more people who want to help tell the story here and abroad. So if folks are listening and have the vehicle to be able to help tell the narrative, we're always excited about doing that.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm in the ready to run stage. I've already stretched. Pass me the baton. Let me carry that son of a gun, because I'll take you to the finish line. I'm just that kind of guy. But I love what you're doing. But I just think the fact that you have these products already in place, the sponsorships are there, it's already proven there is success. You've got outcomes and data to support what this got there. So it's not like you're just spitballing or hoping something's going to work. You've got tangible data that backs up that this is a successful product. So again, if there's other numbers that you need to share, please share those. And let's continue to allow us to pass the baton to other outlets, because to me, this is outstanding. And I can't wait to share this content that you and I just had this conversation to, again, continue to help you build that awareness.
Absolutely. The last thing that I'll share with you too, just around the team piece, and just as you're talking, it is such a team sport. It's really a team sport. I mean, it involves so many people to help continue to build and grow this. The team that we have in the organization is really awesome too, and I just want to take a moment to give them a ton of credit for this, because they own so much of the actual like making this happen process. And one of the things that I love about the team is that it's so diverse. Like we have our chief partnership officer, Colleen. She was a out of school time program administrator in the Bay Area for 15 plus years, worked at the largest organization in the out of school time space there, and then came to our organization. That was like the only job she ever had. And then she came to us,
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, our chief development officer worked at a number of major, Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, Rutgers University, like a number of major tri-state area in the Northeast U.S. Organizations on the philanthropic side, and then came on to help build and grow our work. And she actually had us, we 2x'd our fundraising goal for the last year, which is such an awesome thing to help jumpstart a lot of this excitement that we're talking about. Our chief operating officer has worked in, on the logistics side in a lot of major stadiums, and like just understands like the processes really well. And then our chief academic officer was a 20-year math teacher in Detroit and urban communities throughout Michigan. So he was a classroom teacher for 20 years, fell in love with this. And then as he said, went to the NBA, fulfilled his dream and went to the NBA by joining NBA Math Hoops. So I mean, we have a lot of folks who are like really committed to long-term work in their lives, who have come to lead within our team. And that's, I think, such a huge part of the sustainability and recipe for success of the work, not only now, but in the long term.
Do you have, hey, give them a shout out. Let's, if you've got the names, I know you don't want to forget anybody, because you are such a team and you are well woven, but hey, let's give them a shout out, and let's make sure they also have this link, because if I can be a part of your success in even just a small way, let's spread the word as much as we can.
Absolutely. And if anyone, not that I don't want to like overload our team with emails, but on the partnership side, Caitlin on the partnership side, I think all our emails are actually listed on the website. Caitlin on the partnership side, Calvin, Colleen on the academics partnership side, Jeff on the logistics and like event execution, operation, and product development side, and Sumner as well on the development and fundraising side. Those are all great folks on the team who you'll definitely engage with one way or another, no matter how you enter the organization. Some combination of them will be a part of your Learn Fresh experience.
Man, Nick, I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm honored and humbled that you allowed me to be a platform to bring awareness. And I just think it's something so unique, but yet so needed, because I can see the positive outcomes that are going to come from it. And I know I may sound repetitive, but it's just like, I sit there, and the more I think about it, it's just like, I'm even processing going, wow, this is such a neat thing. So I'm probably like one of those little kids that just got on the game and is playing, and you're seeing my little wheels turn like crazy, even though I'm follically challenged. I'm like, man, this is awesome stuff right here.
Absolutely. The one thing that I'd love to share as maybe a closing thought or near to closing thought for folks is just what our immediate action steps are as an organization. We've talked a lot about the longer term vision and where the product and experience can go over time. But the things that we're working on right now, one, we're working on fundraising for digital development and for preparation for the school year. And that's a kind of immediate 3-month project. We're also thinking about where and how we pilot the program internationally. So if there are folks who are listening and they have a relationship with a community or an organization, we're pretty open to anywhere in the world. We have like very small licensing restrictions, but mostly, most any place that you can think of, we can work in. So please feel free to share those with us, because those are relationships that are harder for us to cultivate on our own. And then
I can help you with a lot of those. I'll just tell you right now, and I'll be more than happy to help you that way.
I love that. Thank you.
Oh, and done.
And then the last piece is we're actually working on board development, both at the governing board level, and then also a new thing that we've built, which is the Emerging Leaders Council for the organization, so younger professionals. And we're also very fortunate to have a collection of really high quality human beings across those two groups right now. So we're looking for people who can definitely fit in there, but also looking for folks who have like strong external visibility in the world of sports and like entertainment and stuff. So if you know of folks who are passionate about the work and think they would be excited about serving our organization, we'd love to have them, or at least have a conversation.
Nick, this is exciting. I just see a wealth of growth and opportunity for you as a CEO, for the vision and direction where you've already come from to where you're at now and where it can go. I think it's an awesome thing. And I'm thrilled that you allowed me to be a platform for you. And I promise you, I can't guarantee anything, but I can guarantee you I will hustle and I will pass the baton, and I will make sure that, we spread the word for you, because again, this is so needed in a society right now where we don't have sports for entertainment, but there's always room for growth and development and education. And whenever we can break down walls and help people evolve, that's what this whole show and platform is about. So even though this is a different and a unique, guest and opportunity, I'm equally as excited, if not more, for this, because to me, it's like, sometimes God introduces you to people through unique channels, and I can see our relationship going to grow, because I just want to know how I can be involved and how I can help and how I can help you grow. So I thank you, Nick, for your time and your selflessness and your servant heart to spend time with us here today, because I know you've got those urgent windows that you're trying to, plug in right now as we speak.
I really appreciate it, Scott. Thanks so much for giving us the platform, and excited to continue to work with you and think about how some of these things that we're pursuing right now can come to fruition.
Well, it's a unique think tank opportunity, and if there's individuals out there who want to be involved, let's make sure that we get them this information so at least they can see us talking about it, because how can you not get excited seeing what's out there and what's available?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Hey, God bless you. Be safe, stay healthy, and let's continue to help this thing grow and evolve, because I know there's thousands and thousands of sleepless nights and hours that have come to this part, and I know there's going to be more thousands and thousands of sleepless hours, but man, let's surround you with the right high character people that can help this thing really go.
Absolutely.
God bless you, my friend. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Nick Monzi, the CEO of Learn Fresh. We're going to put that contact information for him up there on this, but it's been an outstanding Wednesday. I feel like there was a purpose and a meaning for this show. And again, I'm excited to be a part of that. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Can't wait to get the links out now that the program has stopped being live, but let's spread the word and let's continue to build the awareness. So Nick, I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. Be blessed. Great job, my friend.